Brother slept with my girlfriend. Then said, bros before hoes doesn't apply. If you're serious about her, applied my foot to both their asses. Out of my life, they're serious about each other now and seriously miserable. Hey Reddit, this story is going to piss you off on my behalf before it satisfies the hell out of you. My younger brother slept with my girlfriend, justified it with the most twisted logic I've ever heard, and now they're both living in the dumpster fire they created while I'm out here thriving. Sometimes karma doesn't need your help. It just needs you to get out of the way and let nature take its course. I'm 29 male, and my brother Tyler is 26 male. We grew up pretty normal, at least until high school when the favoritism really kicked into high gear. See, Tyler was always the charismatic one, the guy who could charm his way out of anything, make friends instantly, and somehow convince people that his bullshit smelled like roses. Meanwhile, I was the responsible one who actually showed up, did the work, and got things done without needing a parade about it. Our parents weren't crazy with the favoritism, but it was there. Tyler got away with more because that's just how he is, and I was expected to be the mature older brother who understood. I understood all right. I understood that being reliable meant being taken for granted, while being a charming fuck-up meant getting excuses made for you. After college, I landed a solid job as a software engineer at a mid-sized tech company here in Austin. Nothing flashy, but good money, stable career, benefits, the whole package. Bought myself a decent 2-bedroom condo when I was 26. Not some penthouse apartment, but mine, paid for with my own money from my own work. Tyler, on the other hand, bounced around. Tried being a personal trainer for 6 months, then got really into cryptocurrency day trading, lost a bunch of money, then decided he was going to be a club promoter, then a freelance photographer. Every few months it was a new passion that would definitely be the thing that made him blow up. And every time it fell apart, guess who he came to for money? That's right, your boy the reliable ATM machine. I helped him out more times than I should have. Covered his rent twice when his photography gig dried up. Lent him $3,000 for business equipment that I never saw again. Covered his car insurance for 4 months when he couldn't make payments. Each time he'd swear he'd pay me back as soon as his next venture took off. Spoiler alert, it never took off, and I never saw that money again. But he was my brother, you know? That's what family does. At least that's what I kept telling myself while enabling his Peter Pan lifestyle. I met Jessica about 2 years ago at a friend's barbecue. She was 27, worked in marketing for a healthcare company, had her shit together, and was actually funny in that sarcastic way that matches my sense of humor. We clicked immediately. She wasn't one of those girls who played games or needed constant validation. She was straightforward, knew what she wanted, and wasn't afraid to call me on my bullshit when I needed it. We moved in together after about 8 months. Yeah, maybe that's fast for some people, but when you know, you know. Or at least I thought I knew. Turns out I knew jack shit. Jessica got along great with my family. My parents loved her because she'd actually engage with their stories and ask follow-up questions instead of just nodding along politely. She'd help my mom in the kitchen, talk sports with my dad, the whole deal. And Tyler? Well, Tyler thought she was cool. At first, I thought it was nice that my girlfriend and my brother got along. How naive was I? Looking back now with the clarity of hindsight, I can see the signs I missed. The way Tyler would always find an excuse to stop by our place when he knew I was at work. How Jessica started mentioning Tyler's latest venture idea at dinner, showing way more interest in his half-baked schemes than I ever did. The inside jokes that I wasn't part of. How she'd defend him when I'd get frustrated about him flaking on plans or asking for money again. But I trusted her. I trusted both of them. That was my mistake. Everything came crashing down 6 months ago on a random Tuesday. I'd been putting in extra hours at work because we were launching a major update to our platform. The kind of project that meant late nights, weekend work, the whole grind. Jessica said she understood, that she was proud of me for being dedicated. Tyler had recently moved into an apartment about 15 minutes from our place after his last roommate situation fell apart. Shocking. I came home early one day, around 2 p.m., because our afternoon meeting got canceled, and I figured I'd surprise Jessica. Maybe grab lunch together, since she was working from home that week. I unlocked the front door quietly because I didn't want to interrupt her if she was on a work call. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. No sound of her keyboard clicking away, no music playing like she usually had on when she worked. I walked toward the bedroom, thinking maybe she was taking a nap. The bedroom door was cracked open, and that's when I heard it. Heard them. My girlfriend and my brother. In my bed. In the condo that I paid for. You know that feeling when your brain just refuses to process what's happening? Like there must be some rational explanation, some misunderstanding. Because surely the two people you trust most in the world wouldn't do this to you? That lasted for maybe 3 seconds before reality crashed in like a freight train. The sounds were unmistakable. Not just the physical aspect, but the way they talked to each other. Familiar, intimate, pet names I'd never heard Jessica use. My stomach dropped like I'd been sucker punched. But weirdly, I didn't feel angry in that moment. Just this cold, clear certainty. This is who they are. This is what they chose. I didn't burst in yelling. I didn't make a scene. I just stood there for a moment, listening to them, letting the full weight of the betrayal sink in. Then I turned around, walked back to the living room, and sat down on my couch. My couch. In my apartment, where my brother was sleeping with my girlfriend. Part of me wanted to kick the door in, to confront them in the act, to make them feel as exposed and humiliated as I felt. But I didn't. That's not who I am. I'm the guy who thinks things through, who stays calm when everything's burning down, who makes calculated decisions instead of emotional ones. That's what separated me from Tyler my whole life. So I wasn't about to change now just because he'd proven once again that he was exactly the selfish piece of shit I'd always covered for. I sat there for maybe 20 minutes, just breathing, thinking, getting my head straight. I could hear them finishing up, then talking in low voices, laughing about something. The casual intimacy of it was somehow worse than the physical act. This wasn't a drunken mistake or a moment of weakness. This was comfortable, familiar. This had been going on for a while. Eventually, I heard the shower turn on. Good. That meant Tyler was probably getting ready to leave. I waited. Sure enough, about 45 minutes after I got home, I heard footsteps coming down the hallway. Tyler walked into the living room wearing his clothes from yesterday, hair still damp from the shower, looking at his phone with this satisfied smirk on his face. He looked up and saw me sitting there. His face went from smug satisfaction to pure terror in about half a second. Watched the color drain right out of his face. Oh shit. Dude, Save it, I said. My voice was calm, weirdly calm. I think I surprised both of us with how steady I sounded. Tyler stood there frozen. Then I heard Jessica's voice from the bedroom. Babe, did you leave your... She stopped mid-sentence when she appeared in the hallway and saw me sitting there. Jake, she started, and I held up my hand. Don't. Just don't. The three of us just stood there for a moment. I watched them exchange a look, some kind of silent communication, that made it crystal clear this wasn't their first rodeo. They had a rhythm, a dynamic. This was a relationship. How long? I asked, looking at Jessica. She couldn't meet my eyes. Jake, I wanted to tell you, How? Long. 3 months, Tyler said. At least he had the balls to answer the question. Maybe 4. 4 months. A third of our relationship they'd been doing this behind my back. All those late nights I was working. All those times Tyler conveniently showed up. All those inside jokes. It was all right there, and I'd been too trusting to see it. I thought about every time I'd come home to find Tyler's jacket on the hook by the door. Oh, he just stopped by to drop something off. Every time I'd noticed Jessica's mood was weirdly good on days I knew Tyler had been by. Every excuse, every explanation, every lie. They'd been playing me for a fool this entire time. Jake, please, Jessica said, her voice breaking. Let me explain what happened. It wasn't supposed to... Wasn't supposed to what? Wasn't supposed to happen? Wasn't supposed to last 4 months? Wasn't supposed to be you riding my brother in my bed while I was at work paying for this apartment? The words came out cold, clinical. I wasn't yelling. That would have required caring enough to be angry. I was past anger. I was in that crystal clear space where you see everything exactly as it is, with no delusions or hopeful interpretations. Tyler actually flinched at my tone. Good. He should be uncomfortable. He should feel like absolute shit. Though knowing Tyler, he'd somehow find a way to make himself the victim in this story by tomorrow. I can explain, Jessica started, moving toward me. You really can't, I said. There's nothing to explain. You two have been sleeping together for months. In my home. In my bed. While I was working to pay for this place. That's pretty fucking clear. It's not what you think, Tyler tried. Oh, this should be good. Please enlighten me, little brother. Tell me how you accidentally fell dick first into my girlfriend repeatedly for 4 months. He actually looked annoyed that I was being sarcastic. Like I was the one being unreasonable here. Look, man, we didn't plan this. It just happened. We connected, you know? Like really connected. You connected. I repeated it slowly, letting each word hang in the air. Yeah, Jessica said, finding her voice. Jake, you've been so distant lately. Always working, always tired. Tyler and I started talking and we just... Oh, so this is my fault? Because I was working? Interesting take. That's not what she means, Tyler said, stepping forward like he was going to play mediator. Look, I know this is messed up. I know it looks bad, but you have to understand. What Jessica and I have is real. This isn't just some random hookup. We're serious about each other. And there it was. The audacity. The sheer fucking audacity of my brother standing in my living room, fresh from sleeping with my girlfriend, telling me they're serious about each other. Serious, I said flatly. Yeah, man. Look, I know there's this whole bros before hoes thing, but that doesn't apply when you're actually serious about someone. That rule is for casual stuff. What Jess and I have goes deeper than that. I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. The absurdity of him trying to justify betrayal with some twisted reinterpretation of bro code was so ridiculous that laughing was the only response that made sense. You think bros before hoes doesn't apply because you caught feelings while stabbing me in the back? That's your argument? Don't be like that, Jessica said. We didn't want to hurt you. We tried to fight it, but what? Your feelings were just too strong? You couldn't help yourselves? Give me a fucking break. You're both adults. You made choices. Every single time. For 4 months, you both chose to betray me. Tyler ran his hand through his hair. That gesture he does when he's frustrated. I knew you wouldn't understand. You've always been so rigid about everything. Sometimes things aren't black and white, Jake. Sometimes life is complicated. You're right, I said, standing up. Life is complicated. But this is actually pretty simple. You're both pieces of shit who betrayed me. And now you're both going to get the fuck out of my apartment. Jake, let's talk about this, Jessica pleaded. We can figure this out. We're all adults here. There's nothing to figure out. You want to be with Tyler? Great. Congratulations. You two deserve each other. But you're doing it somewhere else. You've got 1 hour to pack your essentials, Jessica. I'll have the rest of your stuff boxed up by this weekend. You can coordinate pickup with my assistant. Your assistant? Jake, come on. I'm not discussing this with you directly anymore. Everything goes through a third party from now on. Tyler, you're already leaving, so that's convenient. And just so we're clear, you're both dead to me. Tyler actually looked hurt, like I'd said something cruel. Dude, I'm your brother. No, brothers don't do this. You're just some guy who shares my DNA and a childhood home. That's it. We're done. You can't just cut us out of your life, Jessica said, tears starting now. Classic. Watch me. I walked to the bedroom, grabbed my laptop and work bag, and headed for the door. Stopped and turned back to look at them both standing there in my living room, looking lost. 1 hour, Jessica. After that, I'm changing the locks. Tyler, do me a favor and take your soulmate somewhere else. Maybe one of those apartments I helped you pay for? Oh, wait. You got evicted from those, didn't you? Well, that sounds like a you problem now. I left my own apartment because I couldn't stand to be in the same space as them for another second. Drove to my buddy Chris's place and crashed on his couch while I figured out my next move. Chris, bless him, didn't ask questions. Just handed me a controller and we played video games for 3 hours while I processed everything. Eventually, I told him what happened. His response? Damn, dude, that's fucked up. What are you going to do? Cut them both off completely. Move on. Live my life. That's it? That's it. They want each other? They can have each other. I'm not wasting another second of my life on either of them. Chris looked at me like he was waiting for the emotional breakdown, the anger, the tears. But it never came. I just felt this strange calm, like I'd been holding my breath for months and finally let it out. Something had been off in my relationship for a while. I'd known it on some level but couldn't name it. Now I knew what it was, and knowing somehow made it easier to deal with. You're taking this weirdly well, Chris said. What's the alternative? Cry about it? Beg her to choose me over my brother? Try to salvage something with Tyler because we share DNA? Fuck that. They showed me exactly who they are. I'm choosing to believe them. Most people would at least be angry. I'm furious, I said. I'm so angry I can barely think straight. But I'm not going to give them the satisfaction of seeing it. I'm not going to waste energy on dramatics or revenge plots or trying to make them feel guilty. The best revenge is cutting them out and living well. So that's what I'm going to do. And I meant every word. And that's exactly what I did. That first week was rough, not going to lie. Not because I miss Jessica, trust me. You get over someone pretty quick when you discover they're a lying cheat. But because my entire life had been structured around her, our routines, our plans, our future, all of that evaporated in an afternoon, and I had to rebuild from scratch. I threw myself into work, picked up extra projects, volunteered for the hard assignments nobody else wanted, worked out every morning before work just to have something to do with my anger. Started therapy because I'm not an idiot, and I knew I needed to process this shit properly. Jessica tried to contact me multiple times that first month. Texts, calls, emails, showing up at my work once. Security escorted her out. Every message was some variation of, "We need to talk," or "I made a mistake," or my personal favorite, "Tyler isn't who I thought he was." Blocked her on everything. Had my lawyer send a cease and desist when she wouldn't stop. Zero tolerance policy for bullshit. Tyler was quieter. He sent me one long text about a week after everything went down. It was full of justifications and explanations about how they'd tried to stop their feelings, how they never meant to hurt me, how he hoped someday I could forgive him and we could be brothers again. How family is supposed to forgive. I read it once, then deleted it, didn't respond. What was there to say? My parents found out about 2 weeks after the explosion. I didn't tell them, but of course Tyler did, probably spinning it to make himself look less terrible. They called me freaking out, asking what happened, why I wasn't answering Tyler's calls, whether we could all sit down and talk about this as a family. There's nothing to talk about, I told my dad. Tyler slept with Jessica for months while I was working. They're together now. I'm moving on. End of story. But he's your brother, Jake. Family works through things. No, Dad. Family doesn't betray family. Tyler made his choice. He chose Jessica over our relationship. That's his right. But it's also my right to remove both of them from my life permanently. I'm done being the understanding older brother who has to forgive everything because family. You're being too harsh, my mom said on the extension. People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. This was 4 months of deliberate choices. Every single time they were together, they chose to betray me. That's not a mistake. That's who they are. Tyler said you won't even talk to him, Dad tried. That's correct. I have nothing to say to him. Jake, please, I'm not asking you to choose sides. Tyler is your son, and I get that. But I'm also your son, and I'm asking you to respect my decision. I don't want to talk about Tyler. I don't want updates about his life. I don't want to hear about him and Jessica. As far as I'm concerned, he doesn't exist. If you can't respect that boundary, then we're going to have a problem. There was a long silence on the line. Finally, Dad said, "We just want our family whole again. Then you should have raised a son who knew how to be a decent brother. I'll talk to you both soon. But Tyler is off limits as a topic. I mean it." I hung up before they could argue. They tried a few more times to mediate, but I held firm. Eventually, they got the message. We still talk, my parents and me. But there's this Tyler-shaped hole in all our conversations now. They don't bring him up, and I sure as hell don't ask. Here's what I learned. Some people will treat your boundaries like a negotiation. They'll test them, push them, try to guilt you into lowering them. The key is consistency. You don't have to be angry about it. You don't have to explain yourself over and over. You just maintain the boundary and let them deal with their feelings about it. The real story, though? The part that's going to make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside? What happened to Tyler and Jessica after I cut them off? Turns out, the fantasy they'd built in their heads about their serious relationship fell apart pretty quick when reality set in. I got all this secondhand from mutual friends who, despite my best efforts to avoid gossip, felt the need to update me anyway. First problem, neither of them had money. Jessica was making okay money at her marketing job, but she'd been living in my condo rent-free, contributing maybe $200 a month toward groceries. Tyler was still doing his various hustles, which means he was making maybe $1,500 a month on good months. Together, they could barely afford a shitty one-bedroom apartment in a sketchy part of town. Apparently, the first place they looked at had roaches. The second had mold in the bathroom, and a landlord who gave off serious serial killer vibes. They ended up in some complex on the east side where the walls were paper thin, and someone was always yelling at 3 a.m. Real romantic. Nothing says true love quite like a security deposit you can barely scrape together, and neighbors who deal substances out of Unit 12. Second problem. Turns out, when your entire relationship is built on the thrill of sneaking around and betraying someone, the spark kind of dies once everything is out in the open. Who knew? The forbidden aspect was what made it exciting. The secret glances, the stolen moments, the adrenaline of nearly getting caught. Take all that away and what are you left with? Two people who have to actually live together and deal with real life, like whose turn it is to buy toilet paper and why the hell Tyler can't hold down a job for more than 6 weeks at a time. My friend Danny ran into them at a grocery store about 2 months after everything went down. Said they were arguing in the frozen food aisle about money, both looking stressed and miserable. Tyler was trying to convince Jessica to lend him money for some new scheme, and she was refusing. The magical connection they had wasn't looking so magical anymore. Danny said Jessica looked like she'd aged 5 years and 2 months. Hair pulled back, no makeup, wearing sweats that had seen better days. Tyler was wearing the same outfit Danny had seen him in the week before. Not the same style, the same actual clothes. They were living that authentic broke life now. No safety net, no responsible older brother to bail Tyler out, no boyfriend with a paid-off condo for Jessica to coast in. Third problem, Jessica's friends dropped her. Turns out most people don't love hanging out with someone who cheated on their boyfriend with his brother. Who would have thought that actions have social consequences? Her Instagram went from constant posts about living my truth and following my heart to basically nothing. Girl got ghosted by her entire social circle. Fourth problem, my family never really accepted them as a couple. My parents were civil to Jessica when Tyler brought her around, but it was that cold politeness that's somehow worse than open hostility. They knew what she did to me. They knew what Tyler did. And even though they wanted their family whole, they couldn't pretend to be happy about the relationship that tore it apart. Fifth problem, and this one's my favorite. Tyler is a terrible boyfriend when he's actually required to be a consistent partner. All that charm and fun energy he has? That's great for sneaking around and hooking up. It's terrible for dealing with actual relationship stuff like bills, commitment, future planning, emotional support. Jessica thought she was trading up from the distant workaholic to the fun, romantic brother. What she actually got was a man-child who couldn't hold down a job and thought Instagram likes were a viable career path. 6 months after they got together, I heard through the grapevine that Jessica was trying to get her old job back at a different company after she'd quit hers. Apparently, word had gotten around her office about what she did, and the work environment became uncomfortable. That's corporate speak for everyone thought she was trash and treated her accordingly. Tyler, meanwhile, had burned through 3 more business ideas and was back to asking my parents for money. They helped him out a couple times before my dad finally told him no. Guess that's what happens when you're not the only child anymore, and you actually have to face consequences. 8 months in, I heard they were fighting constantly. The relationship that was so real and too strong to deny was now 2 miserable people stuck in a shitty apartment, barely making rent, resenting each other, and realizing they'd blown up their lives for basically nothing. I want to be clear. I didn't orchestrate any of this. I didn't sabotage them or secretly plot their downfall. I literally just cut them out of my life and moved on. They destroyed themselves all on their own. Turns out, relationships built on betrayal tend to be built on pretty shaky foundations. Who knew? Meanwhile, my life got significantly better. I got promoted at work about 4 months after the breakup. That extra effort I'd been putting in paid off. Senior software engineer with a 30% raise and a title that actually means something. Finally getting the recognition I deserved for my skills, instead of just being the reliable guy who shows up. I started dating again around the 6-month mark. Nothing serious at first, just meeting people, figuring out what I wanted in a partner, now that I had a clearer sense of what I didn't want. Met a woman named Vanessa through a hiking group I'd joined. She's a project manager at a construction company, has her own place, pays her own bills, and has zero tolerance for drama or bullshit. We've been seeing each other for 3 months now, and it's easy, comfortable. No sneaking around, no lies, no wondering if I can trust her. I bought a house. A real house. 3 bedrooms, nice yard, in a good neighborhood. Been fixing it up on weekends, making it exactly what I want. My space. No shared history with anyone else, just mine. The house was a foreclosure that needed work. Most people saw a dump. I saw potential. Spent 3 months doing renovations, new floors, updated kitchen, completely redid the master bathroom. Learned how to tile from YouTube videos. Built custom shelves in the garage. Planted a garden in the backyard. Every improvement was satisfying in a way that had nothing to do with impressing anyone else. This was for me. My sanctuary that nobody could taint with betrayal or lies. The first night I slept in my house, in my bedroom that nobody else had ever been in, on a bed that had no history attached to it, I slept better than I had in years. No anxiety, no worries, no subconscious warnings that something was off, just peace. I reconnected with some friends I'd let slide during my relationship with Jessica. Turns out, when your girlfriend is secretly sleeping with your brother, you unconsciously isolate yourself because deep down you know something's wrong but can't name it. Without that toxicity in my life, I was free to actually build real friendships again. Started a weekly poker night with 5 guys I'd known since college, but hadn't really hung out with in years. We'd order pizza, talk shit, and play cards until midnight. Simple. Drama-free. Nobody was sleeping with anyone else's girlfriend or trying to justify betrayal with romantic word salad. Just friendship without complications. Joined a men's soccer league on Sundays. I hadn't played since high school, but it felt good to run around, to be part of a team, to have something physical to do with all the energy I used to waste worrying about my relationship. We weren't good, lost more games than we won, but that wasn't the point. The point was showing up, being present, building connections with people who had no connection to my past drama. My mental health improved. The anxiety I'd been dealing with for months before the breakup? Gone. I had thought it was work stress, but looking back, it was my subconscious screaming at me that something was wrong in my relationship. My body knew before my brain did. About a year after everything went down, I was at the grocery store and ran into Tyler. Literally almost bumped into him in the produce section. He looked rough, thinner, tired, wearing clothes I remembered him buying years ago. That hustle energy he used to have was gone, replaced with this defeated exhaustion. We made eye contact. He opened his mouth like he was going to say something. I just walked past him like he was a stranger, because that's what he was to me. A stranger who happened to share some DNA and childhood memories. I saw him standing there in my peripheral vision, watching me walk away. Part of me wondered if he was waiting for me to turn around, to acknowledge him, to give him an opening to apologize or explain or whatever. But I just kept walking, bought my groceries, went home to my house, cooked dinner for Vanessa, who came over later, lived my life. No anger, no satisfaction, no emotion at all, really. Just neutral indifference. That's how I knew I'd truly moved on. He wasn't even worth the energy of hate anymore. I heard through my mom, who still can't help herself sometimes, that Tyler and Jessica broke up about 14 months after they got together. Apparently it was messy. Lots of screaming, accusations, blame being thrown around. Jessica moved back in with her parents. Tyler moved back in with my parents. They're both single, both struggling, both dealing with the consequences of their choices. My mom told me all this during a phone call, then got quiet. Finally said, "I think Tyler wants to reach out to you, to apologize." "Tell him not to bother," I said. "I'm not interested. Jake, he's your brother. He made a mistake." "No, Mom. He made hundreds of mistakes. One every single time he chose to betray me. And then he tried to justify it with some bullshit about how it didn't count, because he caught feelings. He made his choices. I made mine. We're done. Don't you think you've punished him enough?" That one actually made me laugh. I haven't punished him at all. I just removed myself from his life. He's punishing himself by being who he is. That's not my problem to solve. He's really struggling, Jake. Good. The word came out harder than I meant it, but I didn't take it back. Because yeah, good. I'm glad he's struggling. I'm glad the consequence of his actions is a life that sucks. I'm glad that the fantasy he and Jessica built about their great love story turned into a nightmare. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. But more than that, I'm glad I'm not part of it. I'm glad I had the self-respect to cut them both out immediately. I'm glad I didn't waste months or years trying to forgive or understand or maintain some twisted version of a relationship for the sake of family. The truth is, Tyler didn't just sleep with my girlfriend. He showed me exactly who he was. Someone who would betray his own brother for his own gratification, then try to rewrite the narrative to make himself the victim or the romantic hero. Someone who thought I caught feelings was an excuse for months of calculated deception. And Jessica showed me that she was someone who would rather sneak around with my brother than have an adult conversation about being unhappy in our relationship. Someone who was perfectly happy to live off my income and stability while getting her excitement elsewhere. Someone who valued the thrill of forbidden romance over basic human decency and respect for the person she claimed to love. They both did me a favor, really. They removed themselves from my life in the most definitive way possible. Made it easy to walk away without second-guessing myself. No mixed signals, no gray area, no. But maybe they deserve another chance. Just a clear, bright line showing me exactly who they were and giving me permission to move on without guilt. Last I heard, Tyler's working retail somewhere. Jessica's in a relationship with some guy she met on a dating app, and it's apparently not going great. They both tried to reach out to me on social media a few months ago. Him with a long message about how he's grown and changed, her with a short, "I'm sorry for everything," and I deleted both without responding. Vanessa knows the whole story. I told her on our 4th date because I figured she should know what she was getting into. Her response? "Good for you for standing up for yourself." A lot of guys would have stayed and tried to make it work or forgiven too easily because they were afraid of being alone. She got it. The whole point. It wasn't about revenge or punishment or making them suffer. It was about respecting myself enough to walk away from people who proved they didn't respect me. My parents have slowly come around to understanding my position. They still wish things were different, wish their family was whole again, but they've stopped pushing for reconciliation. Dad admitted to me a few months ago that he was disappointed in Tyler, that he'd enabled his behavior too much over the years, that maybe if they'd held him accountable earlier, none of this would have happened. I didn't say, "I told you so." There was no point. The lesson was learned the hard way, and nobody needed me to rub it in. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.